My name is Dawn Ventress Kight. I am the current Dean of Libraries at the only historically black college and university system in the United States at Southern University. As you can tell, I'm proud, proud of that. I'm really glad to lead in that area. I am originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I am currently working now. I started my career after finishing college with a company called Computer Chips. I received my degree in computer science, and my goal was just to be this great computer programmer that was going to change the world through technology. Worked for the company for about a year and a half, and maybe a little more. And the federal funding they were receiving for my position was canceled. And so I had to find another employment, and I wasn't able to change the world through that company. So a coworker who was also working there at the time said he heard of a position in the library. And I'm like, the library? Somebody with a computer science degree? And he's like, yeah, you know, libraries are changing. Technology is being integrated. They're moving from card catalogs. And so I was like, well, okay, hey, you know, I need a job, we'll take it. So he was like, yeah, let's just go there for maybe a year or so, and then we'll see what our next move will be. Took the job, went to the library as a computer programmer. I was on the support staff. We were implementing actually a new system at the time, and connected with the library director, because we worked with her often, and she told both of us, I think you should go to library school. And we were like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And so continued to work there, learned more about the inner workings of the library. Of course, I knew about the library. My parents made sure I went to our public libraries, and books were extremely important in our home. And but I didn't know much about how the library worked, the workflows, and how books were put on the shelves and in the order. So I learned more about that, connected more with the library director. And she was like, Dawn, you really should go to library school. You've become really involved in the work of the library, you know, more than just the technology or the computer. And so I thought about it. My coworker who I came there with, he decided he was leaving and heading for a big position on the East Coast. He was like, come with me. And I was like, no, I think I really like it here. And so I did. I went to library school, received my master's in library science. I did focus on, at that time they had a concentration in library automation. And so I focused in that area, and I've been in libraries ever since. Moved from the support staff into a librarian position, then went into management, and now I serve as the dean of our university libraries, and I love it. About after 5 years of being a librarian in the profession, I saw a post, or either the dean at that time sent an email about a leadership and career development program through the Association of Research Libraries. She suggested that I apply. And so I did. I attended that program, and they had some wonderful speakers. We were connected with mentors in that program. And one of the books we were assigned to read was about system thinkers. When I read that book, I think it really helped to shape the way I lead, because it centered my management style on it's not about just me. It's not about, if I'm working at an institution, it's really not just about the library, but it's how the library fits into the whole. And that changed my view of how I manage, how I team lead, how I work with others, how I break down silos. That one book, and it taught me really a lot about myself. It had me to self-reflect and think about not focusing so much on just what I know and what I bring, but the collective, and hearing the voices of others to help shape how we lead. I believe you have to have, and this can be included as a skill, an understanding of people, because libraries are all about the people that they serve. And so it's really important to have people skills, to have an understanding, to have communication skills, especially if you're going to be in a top leadership position. Communication is key, and it's not just communicating through talking and advocacy. That is extremely important. Those skills are definitely needed, but listening. It is so important, as I said before, to listen to the voices of others. You need financial management skills, technology skills. There are just so many skills that can be used as you progress through the library field. And so I think all of those are necessary, and it's very possible you may not have them all. I know I did not. And the good thing about being in a library is you're surrounded by information and you have access to information to learn. So if you know you're weak in an area, then go and learn. Take a course. Always be a lifelong learner, and help yourself to build up in the areas that either you recognize that you're weak in, or even if upon evaluations or just talking to others, you find out there's a skill that you need to strengthen. But all of those skills are important, so we want to make sure we build on those. I'll be honest, this is my challenge. Because sometimes the work is really heavy, and I get so involved in the administrative work, which I know has an impact on the work that's taking place on the ground, as the question is stated, that I just find myself with my head down in that work. And so often I have to remind myself, or I'm grateful for a colleague that will call and say, let's go here or let's go there, because that's important. So I really believe it's important that as a team, and I do believe in a team approach, that the team members see the coach or see the team lead. And so I make sure that I'm walking around in the library, I'm visible on the campus, I'm visible in the community, and they can see me doing the work. We just had an event here not too long ago at the library, and there was a need to help with parking. There were a lot of people coming, and so instead of just sending somebody out there to help with the parking, I went out there and I was like, okay, y'all park here, you move here, and I'm moving my hands and pointing and directing. But that's the work on the ground that helps, again, that's part of that system thinking that helps to reach the goal or the mission. So I do try my best, and I know that's an area I have to improve in, to make sure that I'm involved, I'm visible, and that others see me as part of the team and just not the figurehead of the team. I don't want that in my leadership. I won't say that I did not receive this piece of advice, but I don't think I took it to heart, or I didn't see it in myself. Maybe I just didn't have the courage earlier to do it, but speak up. Speak up wherever you are. I don't care what table you're sitting at. You're important. Your voice is important. What you have to say is important. Speak up, speak out. Being the person that I am, my younger self, I don't think I did that as often as I should. I know I did it some, because for anybody to see leadership skills in yourself, for them to see it, you had to be speaking up, saying something. But I don't think I did it as often as I should. Know that what you have to say is important, even if you feel like others around you. I mean, there are times when you may be the only one in the room who believes in what you believe in, but if that's important to you, speak up, say it, let it be heard. When you look at what's happening in the world today, in higher education in general, there are some issues taking place that are general, and then there's some that are specific to HBCU libraries. I know one because I hear it quite often. I'm currently serving on the HBCU Library Alliance board, and we often have this discussion. One specific thing is the value of an HBCU library within HBCU institutions. Because our institutions are facing so many challenges with funding, with academic programs, sometimes the library is not seen as a priority. And so that's when the HBCU library leader becomes very important, and our advocacy has to be effective in the community, because it would be very easy to be lost and not seen and not valued. And so it's important for us to understand how to tell our story in a very effective way, so that leadership, who is facing many challenges on the campus, understands that the library is there and should be a top priority as it relates to student success, because our data show that the library is important for students as they matriculate through our institutions. So number one, making sure the value of the HBCU library is seen at top leadership levels. Number two, funding. Having the funding to provide the resources, to provide engaging spaces, to provide what's needed for our students, faculty, and community. If you're valued, as my mother used to say, you're going to put your money where your heart lies. You know, what's important to the heart, you're going to fund that. And so making sure that we have funding to provide resources. Those are two major issues HBCU libraries are facing today. And we're having to find creative ways to meet those challenges. As it relates to funding, we've had to ensure that not only are we relying on state funding, we are a public state institution, but I see it as part of our job or duty or task to go after external funding also. And so we have submitted several grant applications, and we've been funded for most of those. We put together a grant writing team because our librarians and our staff, we work together. They go after looking at applications, seeing what's available, what aligns to the goals and missions of our library and our institution. And once that's together, then the grant writing team, we look at their strengths and what areas they can focus on to make sure the grant is successful. So we have English majors on our team, we have people in the technical area on our team, and so it's just a variety of people with different skills to help us move forward in our grant applications. So we've been successful with the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, IMLS, NITA, which is one that libraries don't often really go after, but they are great funding, especially for technology projects taking place in the library. Most of the federal funding opportunities that are out there, if they relate in any way to what we're doing in providing service, we submit applications and cross our fingers that we're funded, and we've been very fortunate that we have received funding in those areas. When I accepted the role about 5 years ago now as the Dean of the Library, I knew that one area I wanted to work on was salaries for our staff, for our library employees, because it was just it was just below average. And so I made that a focal point. I can tell you I was not successful at first. I put my research together. I had this wonderful letter just full of data showing how our salaries were below par. And at the time, our chancellor just was not hearing it. So I would not give up. I would not give up, because that was just a major issue, because I know it's not healthy for the institution, it's not healthy for the library or our employees to be working and not being fairly paid. That's important to their wellness, to the institution's wellness. So I continued, and I know sometimes when my provost would see me, he would be like, "Oh Lord, here comes Dawn again talking about salaries." And so I kept on pushing and pushing, and he would say no. Well, you know what? I tell you, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. So I started praying. I was like, Lord, you got to move this Pharaoh out of my life. Change his heart. And so guess what happened? Our provost moved on and left. So we received new leadership. And I was like, well, okay, let me start it again. Sent that letter, talked with him, and I would say within 2 months, we had board approval and the salaries were all increased. I started off with our full-time librarians first, and we were successful with that. And then I moved on to our support staff as much as I was able to, because there are some restrictions when it relates to civil service employees. And so we were able to do increases with that. And I haven't stopped, because, you know, although we're at the average, we're not just average people, we're above average. And so that is one area in the field of librarianship that I see. We settle so much, you know, because we just think of ourselves as supporters or just givers. We need to be paid. You know, we went to school, we're providing work and service. And so I haven't stopped. And so I've submitted another plan. My employees don't even know it. And I've received unofficial approval. So that area will be worked on. Moving to advocacy for the library and the community, I think that's extremely important in my role. Making sure that we are collaborating with different areas on the campus, different disciplines, ensuring that we are connected to the community that supports the institution. I continue to do that. I have to attend meetings. I'm attending all types of events to make sure our library is visible. And it works, because what I see now, even if there are tables that I'm not sitting at, there's a library champion sitting there. And so they're speaking up. Well, let's ask the library, or if there's some extra funding, let's give that to the library, because when it goes to the library, it impacts the entire institution and just not one specific area. So making those connections, ensuring that the library is connected, that we're outside of these walls of the JohnBCADE library, that we're seeing, that we're collaborating, that our work matters. that is all advocacy, and it helps even the smallest initiatives that are taking place where we're connecting with others outside of the library. You just may not even realize how big that can turn into support for the library. I've had challenges in that area, and basically I navigated it through paying attention and being focused on the why. I'd like to give you an example of an experience in my role before. We were really adamant about ensuring every student on the campus received some type of information literacy instruction. So our goal was to have a 1-hour course that every student had to take. It would be required. And it would need to be integrated either within our first or second year experience. The person who was in charge of that at the time was not supportive of that effort at all, and just did not see the importance of it. And so that person, I guess, brought in their own experiences and biases, and I had to really use a different approach in explaining why this was so necessary for our students to receive this type of instruction. We were doing one-shot instruction classes. Several professors and disciplines would include that in the curriculum, but it was not campus-wide, which meant every student was not receiving it. And we're proud at Southern University to say that we're graduating students holistically, making sure they have a well-rounded global education. Well, if they're not receiving this instruction, I don't know that we can honestly say that we're doing that. So I changed the approach, talked about what was happening on other campuses and how I wanted it to maybe be different at our institution. After that discussion, we decided that we would target students who were identified as struggling, and make that course a requirement for those students, and make it part of the mitigation of what we were doing to help those students. And so approaching it from that angle, the person in charge seemed to say, okay, let's try it. I mean, whatever they were doing wasn't working because we still had quite a number of students who were on probation and we needed to assist them. And so we tried it. And I'm really happy to say that I know the library can't take full credit that just because we added that to their curriculum, but the number of students who were on probation dropped about 60 to 70%. I'm actually planning to write on this and get this published. And so that's major. And so now we have moved it. We have a 1-hour credit course that's part of the curriculum now, and we still don't have it where 100% of our students are taking that course, but we are moving in the right direction. So speaking about Southern University, if we had unlimited resources within the library, of course, I would hire more expert content librarians and staff to ensure that our community has all of the expertise needed. Of course, we have great ones here now, we do, but we can always improve. I would also implement a technology program where every student who registered at the institution would be given a laptop or some type of equipment to ensure that they can have access. So although we do have a laptop loaner program, it's limited. The students who are coming from certain parishes in the state, especially the rural areas, when they go home or if there's an emergency and they have to leave this surrounding and go home to their area, they still need to be able to access coursework, access the library for resources. And so I would make sure that they had the access to the internet along with the equipment to be able to reach that. I would upgrade our research infrastructure, place high-end computing. Of course you hear the computer technical background. not forgetting about our humanities people. I would increase our book resources, both print and electronic. I love digital, but I also still love the printed book. And we have students who still request it. And so we have not totally gone digital, but I would really use those resources, that funding to increase in that area. I also would use it for some innovative ideas that have been presented to me by others that we're not able to implement because of funding, but we're looking for grants for it. We heavily depend on those grants, but with unlimited resources, all of the projects, the ideas that have been brought to me about how we can make the library experience better, I would use it. Right now my work is centered on equity, and so one change I definitely would make is how we provide access to resources behind paywalls. We say we want to provide access. Open access is wonderful, but even that comes at a cost. So if I had unlimited resources, I would work with publishers and database providers to ensure that research, content, scholarship are all accessible to whomever needs it. We're dealing with persons who don't have access because they do not have computers or laptops to even get to the information that we do provide, whether it's open educational resources that are free or it's our content where that we subscribe to, where you have to be a student at Southern University in order to access it. And then we're limited because we don't provide access to all of the great resources. So if I had unlimited funds, people everywhere would have access to everything. That's pretty much it. I would change the way we're providing access to resources in the library field. And I know that's not totally reliant upon librarians. We have to work with other entities in order to achieve that goal. Right now we're working on a wellness room, a Zen room for just employees. I mean, we've done some things for our students and for our faculty, but just for employees, so they can have a space where if they need to take a break and just go and get a massage in the chair or just have a room of calmness, they'll have that, and then hopefully that provides some energy for them to get back on the desk or get back to their work and be at their best. And I think that's what it's all about. Hearing needs, making sure everyone's gifts and talents are being utilized in the workplace, not just as leadership sees that it should be used, but also hearing from them on how they can be their best selves. And so that's one method I use: communication, listening, having an open door policy. All of our employees know I have an open door policy for them and for students. Making sure they understand their role as being a leader is really key in owning the work that's being done, that they're doing, and how it contributes to the mission. I think once we see that, see our role and how it works, then that helps us in the workplace. It also means understanding, being understanding. I mean, we're all human. We have issues. There are times when we're not going to be here, even if we're physically here. There are times we're not mentally here because of what's taking on in our own personal lives. So having some understanding about that and making it clear that can be shared. I mean, if you're not here mentally, it's really not doing us any good. So take the day off. Take you a day off. Get away from the space to go and handle whatever you need to handle, or just to take a break. And so just being open in the way we work, making sure all of the voices are being heard. And so I believe it works most of the times. I have had issues where it has not worked, but to keep it a positive workplace, I do believe it's extremely important that we hear from the people who are doing the work in the workplace. We listen and we implement and we move forward. Key word in that sentence is manage. Manage and difficult. Sometimes it can be really hard, but if it's necessary to achieve the goal or to help with improvement, you focus on that. The conversation is not really about the person per se, but more about the work that needs to be done. And so if there's an area of improvement that needs to happen, then you just have to have an open and honest conversation. I was not always good at doing that, I'll be very honest with you, because it seemed to, the conversations always seemed to move in a more personal matter than what was needed. And so I learned through coaching and taking some courses that you keep those conversations focused on the work, This is what I noticed happening, this is what we have identified in the work, and so let's see how we can improve in that area. And then letting the person see, making sure the person is hearing what is being said in the conversation, and stressing that this is not about being personal, it's about the work. And so these are changes or conversations that we must have, although they can be difficult, but we must have them if it's going to help us reach our goal. I think the greatest strategy is making sure they are involved at every level of the process. I mean, I've noticed that when they see something that they thought of implemented, they remain engaged because they did it. Even though it may have involved a team, they led it. I was just there for support. And so them seeing the product of something that they wanted to do really helps to keep them motivated. Of course, here, the employees here seeing me work to improve their life financially has also helped them to stay motivated and engaged, because it lets them see that I care, because what I've talked about with helping to get increases with salaries, it never involved me getting an increase. That funding was used just for them, and they knew that. So knowing that we care about what's important to them, that's a strategy that's used to help to keep them motivated. And of course, having celebrations, celebrating the work, celebrating birthdays, marriages, births, all of that. And we have what we call I hope I don't get this wrong. I think it's a social engagement committee. And so they take the lead on all of that. I just make sure that funding is available so that they can do the activities that they want to do. But they enjoy it. I'm not a part of it. All I do is show up. They do the activities. So just making sure we're celebrating each other. That helps to keep people motivated. Oh yes, I just did one. In fact, I'm still in recovery. We had a huge Juneteenth celebration in June of this year. Well, this year, especially with the climate we're in today, where we're not, I feel like we're not really celebrating certain cultures. I thought it was extremely important, and I'll even say the Lord put it on my heart, probably in April, to start pulling people together. I knew it was a project that the library couldn't lead just by itself. We could have, but I knew we needed a greater impact. So we put a team together that involved all areas of the campus, from student affairs to academic affairs. We had deans on the committee. We had students on the committee. Our physical plant facilities, they served on the committee. And it just turned out to be a day beyond my expectations. We had over 1,000 people attend. We had a children's village where the community donated all types of activities. If you would have come that day and seen the front lawn of the library, you would have thought it was like an amusement park. But we had all types of activities. We had cultural learning activities. We had the sororities and fraternities from the community and other organizations that did cultural fun activities with the kids. One of them set up a theater on the first floor of the library, and they presented a live book, an action book, and it was just wonderful. We had summer camps from all over the community to bring bus loads of kids to attend. We had judges, lawyers presenting on panels. LPB was involved, and they did how we got over documentary screening, and then we had a discussion panel after that. So it was very inclusive. Of course, it took funding. We had all types of donations to come in through our Southern University Foundation, which supported the event. But it just was beyond my expectations. The mayor even had the stage donated, so we had a huge stage set up outside with performers. Of course, we had music and we danced, and so from learning activities to fun activities, we had East Baton Rouge Parish Library, several persons from their staff came and did genealogy workshops. Our past president, President Tarver, participated. He did workshops for us. So we had activities in different areas of the campus. They were all engaged, focused on the culture. It was just a wonderful, wonderful event. And even though I received a lot of kudos because I served at the lead, when I tell you it was a team effort, it was not a Don Kight production. It turned out really great. We even had a decorating contest where different buildings had to show their Juneteenth spirit. And one building just took it beyond our College of Agriculture. They created a full museum of past persons in agriculture, and then they brought it to the present and how we can move forward. Our communications office had me on every talk show in the morning. I did every talk show. I did radio shows along with some of the other people on our committee. So it was just a great day, a great way to collaborate. We have more library champions now. So it was a wonderful event. One of the skill sets we learn about mentoring, especially in formal sessions. And of course, we do it both formally and informally. But listening to what the mentee has to say, listening to their goals, but also being very honest, having honest conversations about what's being said or what they're doing, and then just offering suggestions, whether they take them or not, offering suggestions on and sharing various professional development opportunities, sharing self, maybe some the great things that have happened in my career, but also sharing areas where I could have done better. Just being open and listening. That's my approach to mentoring. I also want to share importance to leadership is to having a good mentor or mentors in your life. And I've been very fortunate in that area, both in programs that I participated in where we were assigned a mentor. Sometimes that worked, sometimes it did not, but just in developing a relationship with someone. My former dean, actually the person who was in the position that I'm in now, she has been an excellent mentor, somebody who has very real conversations with you, whether you want to hear what she has to say or not, she's going to say it. And I'm very grateful to Emma Bradford Perry, who was the dean here and at several universities throughout the United States. But she believed in open conversations, and she also listened. She would tell anybody, hey, I'm not the best in this area, and so that's why we need this person or that person. And that kind of really helped to form my leadership style, because I saw her do that with me. She allowed me to lead in areas where she could have easily said, hey, I'm the dean, I should be doing this, but she did not. She allowed me to take on those leadership opportunities and always pushed for development. And I want to acknowledge her and the previous director, Georgia Brown, and others throughout various libraries who've been very supportive. And so having a mentor is extremely important, someone you can connect to. And there were times I actually didn't use the word mentor, but that's what they were really doing in my life. They were mentoring me and helping to guide me to where I am today. I would say, first, think about your why. Why are you doing it? Or do you want to be in a leadership role because you feel it looks good, or maybe it's better pay? Those reasons are fine. Just examine your why, because as a leader, you're taking on greater responsibility, greater task, you'll have greater influence. So really connecting with yourself as to why you're doing this is extremely important. Once you've thought about that, then prepare yourself. Take advantage of every opportunity you see that's available that aligns with what you want to do. Sign up for the leadership classes. Be active in your library organizations. Be active with your state. Make sure you're able to connect and advocate with library leaders. Ensure you have a mentor or somebody who can assist you or champion your leadership path for you or with you. Also, connect with those you want to lead, to make sure you're the type of person that can hear their voices and then help guide them. All of those are extremely important as you move upward. Listening to other leaders, reading, being aware of what's happening around you, what's happening nationally, internationally, so you can truly partake of discussions when they take place. and be able to offer your own ideas, be innovative, seeing what that takes, understanding yourself when challenges happen, not letting it knock you off your path or your focus. So just preparing yourself for the position, reading about what it takes, talking to others who are actually doing that work now, and then making sure you're prepared for it. I believe this journey actually started from birth when I was born. And although if you would have told my 21-year self this is the position that I would be in today, I would not have believed you, because I really was more on the shy side, and being as a dean in a leadership position, you definitely have to push yourself to be more outward. Also, I appreciate all of the institutions of both higher learning, my K through 12 education, that helped me along this journey. I received my undergraduate degree right here from the institution where I'm not serving at Southern University. Masters of Library Science from Louisiana State University, and then I went on to get my doctorate in science and math education, where I focused on my research on information literacy in the STEM areas. I believe taking advantage of development programs, the Harvard Leadership Management Program for academic libraries was excellent. The ARL program for leadership and career development was great. I probably didn't mention that I also worked for ARL for a couple of years as a visiting program officer, and led their online training program and worked with Deanna, who was leading one of the career development sessions, recruiting a diverse workforce at that program. That was an excellent experience, being able to see how the large research libraries work, and it really helped to influence my work here. So, I mean, just taking advantage of every opportunity that's offered, even when I felt like I was not being successful, it still helped me to get to where I am today. So I realized that really wasn't a failure. It was just a path of learning for me to learn to do better as I move forward. I'm married. I have 3 wonderful daughters that also were a great part of this journey, because when I was younger, it seemed like every time I wanted to go for another degree or take another course, I ended up getting pregnant. When I was in library school, I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And so I had that wonderful experience going on while I was also trying to finish a library degree. Then right after that, my father died of cancer. And so that was another challenge, because I knew I wanted to go forward with a doctorate degree. But it seemed like every time I wanted to start that path, something happened in my life. I ended up being pregnant with had twins. And so I delayed again. And then at the age of 50, once my kids were grown and gone, I said, I'm going to do it. You know, you only have so much time between the dash of birth and expiration when you die. And so I want to make the best of my dash. I want to do all that that God has put into me to do. And so at the age of 50, I went back to school. I didn't tell anybody I was going either, because I was like, if I don't finish, I don't want to hear anybody's voice. But even people who did know, they were like, girl, you going back at this age? And I was like, yeah, yep, it's a part of my journey. I know it is. It's a part of my path. And so I did. I went back and I finished. And I finally told people, probably when I was about to graduate after 4 years, that I was doing my dissertation defense. So, you know, it was all a part of my journey. And I just think it's important to really believe in yourself, listen to yourself, and focus on your passion and what you were put here to do. And I know mine definitely is being utilized as I work in this library field, basically to help others. I'm still a Girl Scout leader. That has helped me along my path, working with those girls, being in leadership, meeting other people who are also Girl Scout leaders. So, I'm excited about where I am right now, where we're headed. And I know that there will be challenges, but I just feel like I'm empowered now. I'm continuing to learn so that I can do better and be the best leader.